Welcome to the Performance Banker Podcast. You'll hear banking industry experts providing unique insights and expertise to help bankers achieve higher performance, obtain outstanding results, and gain a competitive advantage. Here's your host, Tonya.
Hello and welcome to the Performance Bankers Podcast. Have you ever thought about creating your future self? I know that may be an odd question, but think about that for a minute. Have you ever thought about creating your future self? You know, we tend to think that the person that we are today is the person who we're always going to be. And most people, when they're asked if they're the same person that they were 10 years ago, most people is going to say no, that they're not the same person that they were 10 years ago. But we have a really hard time seeing the potential for the change that we can make in our own lives and who that we can become. And despite the awareness of our past self, and it's clearly different that our present self is different than who we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and how that might be different even 5 or 10 years in the future. And we always tend to think about, who we are right now and who we could be or who the finished version of ourselves could be in the future and our future self. And will that basically be the same as who we are today? And I'm going to say that the answer to that is no. Human beings we're a work in progress. And, that sometimes is mistakenly thought for as we're finished. We're finished as to who I am today, and that's who I'm always going to be. But that's not accurate. Our personality, our skills, our likes, our dislikes, all of those various different types of things, those change over time. What I liked to wear 2 years ago is not even the same as what I like today. So whether you're intentional about that change or not, you can be someone different. Change is inevitable, but it's not out of your control. And we're going to talk about some strategies to help you become your future desired self. 3 of those, in fact, 3 strategies. And one of them is distinguish your former, current, and future selves. People tend to place extreme emphasis on their present selves, and we tend to cling to our current identities and speak in incredibly definite terms about who we are, what we like. Sometimes we even put labels on ourselves. We may say, I'm an introvert. I'm an extrovert. I don't like people. I don't like talking to people. I can talk to anybody. I can talk to the tree and expect it to talk back to me. So, when we label ourselves, we often don't give ourselves room to change or to grow, because we're feeding our minds with those things that won't allow our minds or our brains to think anything but that. And so when you assume a label, you stop seeing alternatives altogether. So if something is presented and then you accept it as the truth, alternative ways of thinking, they don't even come up for consideration anymore. And one way to think of that is, let's think of depression, for example. When you are depressed, sometimes or if you know people, then they begin to think that they're depressed all the time. Maybe not just for the moment or for the situation that just happened. They begin to think that, oh gosh, I'm depressed all the time. And then mindful attention to to that particular thing then becomes the normal all the time. And the truth is, again, is you're not the same as you were in the past. So you don't want to do the same things just like you always did. And so you no longer maybe want what you always wanted. Instead of labeling yourself and focusing on who you are today, recognize how much you've changed or how much you've grown over the past couple of years, the past 5 years, the past 10 years, and then begin to think of how you can change yourself for the future. You can train yourself to even see short-term growth by measuring progress, on a daily, a weekly, a monthly, a quarterly basis. You can start asking yourself, what wins have I had today? What wins have I had in the past 7 days? What wins have I had in the last 90 days? And once you start distinguishing between your current and your former selves, it becomes possible for you to view your future self as a different person, all in itself. And so the number two strategy is start to imagine your desired future self. Who is that? Who is that you want to be? It's so much easier to default to the present time or who you are today than it is to imagine a different future. But if you don't take the time to imagine who you want to become or begin to take action, you're going to reactively become just whatever life throws at you. You're going to lead a reactive life. And, who wants that? Research shows that shaping your future self requires you to practice. Practice, practice, practice. You have to deliberately practice the ability to develop yourself towards a specific goal. You can't just effectively grow without a direction to that goal. You can't do anything, honestly, without having some type of plan or some type of goal. You have to have a clear plan, a clear goal to shape the process. I mean, if you don't, again, you're living in this reactive world and you're just letting whatever comes your way shape who you are. And so, when I decided that I wanted to become a business person or an entrepreneur, I had to create what that was going to look like in the future. I had to decide whether or not what I was going to do. I'm going to consult. I'm going to train. I'm going to coach. I'm going to be in sales. Well, again, what does that look like? What does that path look like? Who is my avatar or my target audience? What does the next 2 years look like? What does the next 5 years look like? And I can tell you that what it looks like today is not what it looked like last year or even 3 years ago when I started the business. And so without a progression plan, I'm not going to get anywhere. And so without coaching, without mentoring, without creating a strategy, without creating a goal, a plan, I don't know who I would have ended up being. So to be a successful entrepreneur, I had to plan that out. The same as when I wanted to be a successful corporate executive in banking, I had to know what that looked like. I had to see myself and imagine myself in that position or in those roles to get there. I couldn't just let life or every situation happen and I get there. It just doesn't work that way. And so if you're that type of individual, I hate to tell you, you're not going to get where you want to be. You have to create that future self, that person that you want to become. And no, it's not easy. It's not easy, but you have to make that happen. Or again, whatever life drives you towards, that's what's going to happen. Research shows that both motivation and hope stem from a combination of a very clear desired outcome and the belief that you can succeed. And excuse me, and having that path to get you there. The field of positive psychology has flipped many of those old assumptions of finding that humans are not driven solely by their past, but rather are actually drawn forwards by their own views of the future. You have to drive yourself towards your views, towards your future. Your behavior in the present is largely shaped by your view of your own future. It's shaped by your view of your future. And so if your future is clear, it's exciting, and it's something that you believe in and that you can create, then your behavior in the present will reflect that. I was listening to a training this morning by on storylink.com, Pat Quinn, and he was talking about a lady, oh gosh, and her name's just, I think the book was called IT. I can't remember the lady's name who created that, but it was a makeup company for people that have not so good skin. And she then sold that to L'Oreal for a lot of money. I want to say it was like 1.2 million. Can't remember if it was 1.2 million or 1.2 billion. But anyway, the moral to the story was that when she took that thought to market, people said it will never fly. But she believed enough in herself that she continued that process until she made it work. And so at the end of his training session, Pat Quinn helps people build their story, helps get them on podcasts, and helps get them on stage to speak. He was saying that he believed enough in us that if we had a thought, in which he encouraged us to believe in ourselves, and any thought that we had, to move forward with that, no matter what other people think, believe, or say about us, that we need to believe in ourselves enough to create it. And that's exactly what I want to do for my clients, whether they're clients in a company or individuals like each of you listening to the podcast today, is if you believe in something enough about yourself, stick with it, do it. You can do it. Who would have ever thought that I would have left high school, not being able to present or speak, and then having a mentor who could get me there and push me to have an after hours training session. And then little did I know, I absolutely loved it and wanted to make speaking and training as a career as I moved up the corporate ladder. And even today, I love doing it today. I created what I wanted as I moved up that corporate ladder, having no idea back in the past that I would even be doing something like that. I was petrified, terrified, would have never thought that I would even do such a thing. But Pat said, believe enough in yourself, believe enough in your thought to create it and make it happen. And so that's what I'm saying here. Create your future self regardless of what other people think. He believed in us. She believed in herself to take that and run with it, and then sold it to L'Oreal and made something of herself. I made something of myself, making it in the corporate career, and now making something of myself in my business today. You can do that too. And do you have to get out of your comfort zone? Absolutely. Today, I was on a Zoom session, and the lady who was actually facilitating or training asked everyone at the beginning to go around and not share what you do, but to share what you stand for. And so as we did that, it was amazing at what happened. I talk a little bit about, in fact, this week's podcast was on, it was a repeat of one I did before on your network is your net worth. And it's a prime example of exactly what I'm about to share is a prime example of what I talked about in that particular podcast. Because as I shared what I stood for, I received in the chat a message from someone in the UK who asked me if I was on LinkedIn, and he wanted to introduce me to his network there in the UK, that he had individuals that he felt I could help. And I said, absolutely, you can find me, by Tonya Gossage and by Gossage Performance Consulting. And so he immediately connected with me, and we're going to jump on a Zoom to see how I can help his connections over in London. So you never know what connection is going to connect you to your next thing while you are creating your future self. And so I say all of that to say, never give up. It does not matter what people say about you or what they believe about you. It's all in the behavior of what you are doing to shape your view of your own future. You create your future, not your neighbor, not your friend, not your loved ones, not your family, not your old boss, although those people help you get there, but you shape your future. And so who is your future self? Only you have that answer to that question. But I want to know, who is your future self? I want to fall in love with who your future self is. I'm falling in love with who my future self is. And the first step to that is imagining your future self. Your future self is not someone who you discover. It's not someone who you discover. It's someone who you decide to be. I have decided that not only am I a salesperson, not only am I a consultant, not only am I a coach, not only am I a trainer, not only am I a Mimi, not only am I a wife, a friend, all of these things, a sister, a daughter, your list goes on of who you are, but I am who I am creating myself to be. I am a speaker. I am a speaker on stage in front of thousands of people. People are getting to know me as who I am, creating my brand. And when I'm finished, I'm helping people with their customer service, their communication, and helping them build strong relationships in teamwork, in their life, in their business. And as I'm doing that, people are clapping, people are happy because I've helped change their lives. That's the person that I am creating. I'm helping you be successful in your business. I'm helping you be successful on your job. I'm helping you learn how to communicate. I want you to imagine this for just a minute. What if, just what if, I spent 1 hour a week with you and I've helped you understand how you can communicate on your job with your clients, with your family, with your friends, with anyone in your ecosystem better, or to communicate with someone in their own language the first time you meet them, because you already know who they are before you meet them. Would that not be amazing? Would that not set you up for success? Would that not help you get more sales? It would, I can tell you, because it happened to me. It happened to me, and it continues to happen to me. And it is amazing. It's amazing when you can rekindle relationships that have been strained. It helps you build a whole new you from the past, from the present, and it's helping you build a future you. And that third strategy is changing your identity narrative, which is so much more powerful than your personality. Your identity is so much more powerful than your personality. Your personality, though, is so important. Your identity, it drives your behaviors, which over time, it does become your personality. Your personality is who you are. It's the sum of your consistent attitudes, your behaviors, and merely a byproduct of your identity. And your identity narrative, it is the story that you tell about yourself, your past, your present, and future. Your identity, it's rooted in your past and your present alone. That fixed mindset that can make personality feel permanent. But if you focus on envisioning your future self instead of fixating on your current self, it becomes possible to change your identity narrative. Yes, this isn't just something that you should think about internally or tell those around you who you want to be. And it is for sure, not faking it until you make it. I can promise you that. But rather honestly and humbling, knowing that your future self is in fact, it's a different person than who you are today. Who you are today is a different person than you are today. You are not your future self yet, but that's where you're headed. That's where you're going. And of course, it takes courage. It takes courage to get to your future self. And you have to do exactly what I said a while ago. You have to publicly say, this is who I want to be. This is who I'm going to be. It's risky because you may not be guaranteed to succeed, but it's the only way to be intentional about who you want to become. Telling people who you want to be, it is incredibly powerful because it's going to compel you to make your behavior consistent with your new story. It is. You're going to have a new story, and who you want to become, you're going to start telling people, you're going to start acting that way, you're going to show up that way. And when you do, you're going to find the courage that you need, and you're going to walk in that vision of who you want to be. You're going to show up in that behavior, that attitude. And so I want you to start showing up in that way. I want you to start telling people, start acting like your future self rather than your former self. I want you to embrace uncertainty. I want you to embrace change. I'm doing it every single day. Trust me, getting out of my comfort zone. I'm embracing learning, and I am embracing failure. And I'm asking you to do the same. Never, ever, ever be defined by right now. Never be defined by right now. Engage and deliberately practice so that over time you're going to grow into your ever evolving story of who you're going to be in your future self. Take action and invest in building your future identity. Walk with me. Do it with me. Do it as I'm doing it. And this is how you're going to become the best version of you that you most want to be. I challenge you to do it. Get out of your comfort zone and do it with me. Create your future self. I am Tonya Gossage, your performance banker. I have so enjoyed this podcast. You're going to hear so much more from me about creating your future self and walking in your intention. I love you guys so much. And until next week, performance drives results. And so does getting out of your comfort zone. Love you guys. See you soon.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to download and subscribe wherever you get your shows. Find more content on our YouTube channel. Link is in the show notes. This podcast is sponsored by GossagePerformanceConsulting.com.